your response to President Trump's decision to withdraw from that June 6th summit in Singapore with North Korea leader Kim Jong Un.
Well, these kind of speed bumps are not unusual in this sort of thing. This is the size of this and the complexity of it is absolutely stunning. And I know a lot of people think, well, the two get together, shake hands, sing Kumbaya, and it's over. That's not how these things go. It is to be expected that you're going to have speed bumps along the way, and occasionally you'll get setback. But look, the basics haven't changed here. Kim Jong Un has not walked back his original statements of wanting to talk about denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. And that's what started all this. This whole thing is in Kim Jong Un's hands. Whatever road he chooses to go down, we will do what is necessary to respond to that. It's his choice, absolutely. He made, in my judgment, a very wise choice to put on the table, look, let's talk about denuclearization. That was a good thing for him, for the Korean Peninsula, for America, for the world. And none of that has changed. But and the president has said the door's open. He's willing to talk, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we will proceed to talk.
So you agree with the president's decision to withdraw from this?
Yeah. Look, the reasons I was with the president this morning when the media asked him, well, why did this happen? And he declined to indicate, which is a good thing. You don't want to have, if you do have differences, it's not good to be litigating them out in the open before you've ever met. And so I agree with him. He made the judgment based on the information that he had that he would pull back from the 12th.
Respectfully, I was there too at the White House, and I find it interesting in the last 24 hours in particular when you have a top North Korean diplomat referring to a sitting U.S. vice president as a quote-unquote political dummy, and you also have the president engaging in the past several months on Twitter referring to North Korea leader Kim Jong Un as a quote-unquote little rocket man. Is that type of rhetoric helpful?
Of course not. But let's back up. You'll notice that the president's rhetoric has been entirely different since, and I can put a moment to it, and that moment is the closing ceremonies, exactly halfway through the closing ceremonies at the Olympics. I was sitting in the closing ceremonies, and so were the State Department people I was with and the White House people I was with. All our cell phones went off at the same time, and the South Koreans notified us that Kim Jong Un has said that he wanted to talk, and he wanted to talk about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. That was a game changer. That changed things dramatically. Now, look, there's thousands of people talking about this, hundreds of thousands of people. When people talk, sometimes they say things that are interpreted not the way they're meant, and so as a result of that,
right.
you'll get dust ups.
Right. With regard to the president's letter talking about the U.S. nuclear arsenal, is that ratcheting it up? It clearly is a response to North Korea doing the same thing, but a lot of people might look at that and be concerned.
Yeah, I would urge you not to focus on one sentence in that letter. That letter was very, very well drafted. It was well thought out. You have to take it as a whole, not taking a sentence out of it. If I were going to pick a sentence out of that, I'd pick the sentence out where the president said, look, the door is still open, the ball's in your court, we still would like to reach an agreement on that. That's what I would take out of that letter.
Which model should the U.S. follow in terms of which denuclearization model for the Korean Peninsula?
Yeah. None. This is a transaction that will be between the President of the United States, President Trump, and Kim Jong Un, the chairman. It will be their transaction. These are all different. They are all unique. And I think when you start talking about a model, then someone will pick something out of one of the models that they don't like or that didn't work and focus on that. These two parties need to be given the space to be able to get together and to weigh these things and see if they can't come to a decision on how this should be handled without reference to anything that's happened before and without reference to any model.
North Korea's economy is essentially collapsing, dwindling, putting it past any economist that has access to any data coming out of there would argue that. What role do our allies play here? Because when more than 90% of exports and imports from North Korea come to China, for example, or directly tied to China, what role did the Chinese need to play here? It can't just be the U.S. and North Korea.
No, of course not. And the good news is on that is virtually everyone in the world is of the same frame of mind that North Korea should not be developing nuclear weapons. And given that, that is an objective. Once everybody agrees agrees to that objective and everybody works in good faith to reach that objective, you get the kind of pressure that's on North Korea right now. Things are bad there. There's no question about it. And that what that does is it causes people to stop and think, what are we doing here? What's causing this, and how can we do things better? So that's a good thing.
So the speculation that the Chinese, for example, were using the Korean summit as a ploy in trade talks is not what you're hearing.
Pure speculation.
Pure speculation.
Yeah, pure speculation. And look, the president, if you were in the room this morning, you saw when he walked through that door, he was as somber as I've seen him in a long, long time. You also noticed that he didn't go off script when he was talking about this. They had a prepared statement that was similar to the letter, but longer in draft. He stayed right with that. The tone was the same. The message was the same. And he takes this very seriously and believes this and hopes this can get done.
Senator, when you look at the political volatility index, for example, we noticed some spikes upon any news of North Korea. Now, there was some speculation in the gold market, for example, about what was going on in the Korean Peninsula. But I want to take this in the minute and a half or so that we have left, just with a final question about what exactly is this administration all in lockstep? So when I covered, for example, former Secretary Tillerson, there appear to be some differences between President Trump and that Secretary of State. But now with the new Secretary of State, Pompeo, it appears that everyone is very much on the same page. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mike Pompeo is very close to the president. And we have, on the Senate side here, Foreign Relations Committee, we have a tremendous relationship with not only Mike Pompeo, but also the president. Look, I was here all through 8 years of the Obama administration. The Constitution is very clear about advice of the Senate. We were never asked for advice, and when we tried to offer it, it was uniformly rejected in the vast majority of cases. This president calls for advice regularly from us. I've been up there 3-4 times in the last 2 weeks. So,
well, anytime you talk to him, feel free to tell us what you guys talked about.
Well, I'll probably pass on that. Thank you so much.